The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of Adelaide Cottage as Princess Charlotte carefully arranged her England scarf around her neck. Today was different from any other day. It was the Euro 2025 final, and her father, Prince William, would be attending as the president of the Football Association. The 9-year-old princess had been looking forward to this moment for weeks. Ever since England had secured their place in the final against Spain, Charlotte had always been fascinated by football, much to the delight of her father, who shared the same passion. Unlike her brothers George and Louis, who sometimes found the long matches boring, Charlotte could sit through entire games, asking thoughtful questions about tactics and player positions. Prince William often joked that she understood offside better than some professional commentators. The breakfast table at their Windsor home was buzzing with excitement. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was helping Charlotte choose between two different England jerseys while Prince George practiced his celebration dance moves, convinced that England would score at least 3 goals. Little Prince Louis was more interested in the pancakes on his plate, though he had insisted on wearing his miniature England kit just like his siblings. Remember, Charlotte, today you'll be representing our family at one of the biggest sporting events in Europe, Prince William said as he adjusted his own formal suit. As the FA president, he couldn't wear casual fan gear like his daughter, but Charlotte could see the excitement dancing in his eyes. The whole world will be watching, and I know you'll make us proud. Charlotte nodded seriously, understanding the weight of the occasion. She had attended royal events before, but this felt different. This wasn't just about royal duties, this was about supporting English football and being there for her father during what could be a historic moment. England hadn't won a major tournament since 1966, and the pressure on everyone involved was immense. The drive to Wembley Stadium was filled with anticipation. Charlotte pressed her face against the car window, watching as thousands of England fans made their way toward the iconic venue. Red and white flags hung from every building, and the streets were filled with people singing football songs. The atmosphere was electric, and even through the bulletproof glass of their official car, Charlotte could feel the energy of the crowd. "Look at all those people." "Papa," she whispered to Prince William, who was reviewing his notes for the pre-match ceremonies. "They all believe England can win, don't they?" Prince William smiled and put his arm around his daughter. "Yes, they do. And that belief, that hope, that's what makes football so special. It brings people together from all walks of life, all united behind one dream." As their car approached Wembley, Charlotte could see the massive arch of the stadium gleaming in the afternoon sun. Security personnel were everywhere, and she could hear the distant roar of 90,000 fans already inside the venue. Her heart began to race with excitement and nerves. She had been to Wembley before for England matches, but never for a final of this magnitude. The protocol officer briefed them one final time as they waited in the car. Charlotte would walk alongside her father during the pre-match presentations, meet both teams, and then take her place in the royal box. She had practiced her handshakes and knew exactly when to stand and when to sit during the national anthems. But as they stepped out of the car and heard the thunderous roar from inside the stadium, Charlotte felt a flutter of butterflies in her stomach. The weight of the moment suddenly hit her. This wasn't just any football match. This was history in the making, and she was about to be part of it alongside her father. Prince William seemed to sense her nervousness and gently squeezed her hand. "Remember what I always tell you about big moments like this?" he asked softly as they walked toward the stadium entrance. "Take a deep breath and enjoy every second," Charlotte replied, repeating the advice her father had given her countless times before royal engagements. "That's right. And remember, I'm prouder of you being here with me today than I am of anything else. Whatever happens in the next few hours, we're experiencing it together." As they entered the tunnel leading to the pitch, Charlotte could hear the crowd singing "God Save the King" in preparation for the royal arrivals. The sound was overwhelming, minus 90,000 voices united in song, all hoping for the same magical outcome. She straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin, ready to support her father and her country on one of the biggest stages in world football. The tunnel seemed to stretch forever. But finally, Charlotte could see a bright light ahead. the entrance to the pitch where both teams were already lined up, waiting for the pre-match ceremonies to begin. Her father's hand was steady in hers, and she drew strength from his calm confidence. This was it. The Euro 2025 final was about to begin, and Princess Charlotte was ready to stand by Prince William sighed through every moment of what promised to be an unforgettable afternoon. As they approached the pitch, she could already imagine the stories she would tell her brothers about this incredible day, and how proud she was to support both her father and her country. When it mattered most, the roar of the crowd grew louder with each step, and Charlotte felt her excitement building. Whatever happened in the next 90 minutes, she knew this would be a day she would remember for the rest of her life. The moment Princess Charlotte stepped onto the Wembley pitch, the noise was unlike anything she had ever experienced. 90,000 fans erupted into cheers as she walked hand in hand with Prince William toward the center circle where both teams waited in perfect formation. The England players stood proudly in their white home kit, while Spain's team looked equally impressive in their traditional red jerseys. Charlotte's eyes wandered across the faces of the England players, many of whom she had met before at various royal functions. Captain Harry Kane gave her a subtle wink, while Jude Bellingham offered a respectful nod. These weren't just footballers to her, they were people she had gotten to know, and seeing them here in this moment made everything feel more personal and meaningful. The pre-match ceremony began with both national anthems. Charlotte stood perfectly straight beside her father, her small hand placed over her heart as the familiar melody of God Save the King filled the stadium. She could see some of the England players with tears in their eyes, and she understood why. This wasn't just about football anymore. It was about representing their country on the biggest stage possible when Spain's anthem played. Charlotte listened respectfully, noting how their fans sang with equal passion and pride. Her father had always taught her that respect for opponents was just as important as supporting your own team. She watched as the Spanish players sang along, their faces showing the same determination and emotion as the English team after the anthems. It was time for the traditional pre-match presentations. Prince William, in his role as FA president, would present both teams to Charlotte, who would shake hands with each player. This was always her favorite part of attending matches. Meeting the players up close and wishing them luck. The Spanish team approached first, and Charlotte was impressed by their politeness and professionalism. Each player bowed slightly as they shook her hand, and several spoke to her in English, thanking her for attending. The Spanish captain even complimented her England scarf, making her smile despite their rivalry on the pitch. When the England team's turn came, the atmosphere felt different. These players knew Charlotte personally, and she could see the extra motivation in their eyes. Marcus Rashford knelt down to her level and whispered, "We're going to do this for you and your dad." "Princess," Declan Rice promised her they would give everything they had, while goalkeeper Jordan Pickford jokingly asked if she had any last-minute tactical advice, but it was the conversation with Harry Kane that touched her most deeply. The England captain took a moment longer than the others, looking Charlotte directly in the eyes as he spoke. "Your Highness, having you and your father here today means everything to us. We know the whole country is watching, and we won't let anyone down." Charlotte felt a surge of emotion as she replied, "We believe in you. Mr. Kane, England believes in you." The sincerity in her young voice seemed to affect the captain deeply, and several photographers captured the meaningful exchange between the future Queen and England's goal-scoring hero as the teams made their way back to the tunnel for final preparations. Charlotte and Prince William were escorted to the royal box. The walk through the stadium corridors gave Charlotte a chance to process what had just happened. She had looked into the eyes of players who carried the hopes and dreams of an entire nation, and she had seen their determination to succeed. The royal box at Wembley offered a perfect view of the entire pitch, and Charlotte was amazed by the sea of red and white that filled every corner of the stadium. England fans had traveled from every part of the country, and their songs and chants created an atmosphere that gave her goosebumps. Prince William introduced Charlotte to various dignitaries and football officials who had gathered for the final. She met WIFA executives, former England players, and representatives from both the English and Spanish football associations. Each person she met seemed genuinely pleased to see her there, and many commented on how much it meant to have the royal family's support at such an important moment. As kickoff approached, Charlotte found herself growing more nervous than excited. She had watched enough football with her father to understand how cruel the game could be. England had come so close to glory before, only to have their dreams crushed in penalty shootouts or last-minute goals. She couldn't bear the thought of seeing her father's disappointment if England lost another major final. "Papa, what if England doesn't win?" she asked quietly as the players began emerging from the tunnel for the second time. Prince William considered his daughter's question carefully before answering. "Then we'll be proud of them for getting this far, and we'll support them even more for the next tournament. That's what being a true fan means, Charlotte. We celebrate the victories and we stay loyal through the defeats." The stadium erupted as both teams took the field for kickoff. Charlotte watched as Harry Kane and the Spanish captain met the referee in the center circle for the coin toss. The England captain won, choosing to kick toward the end where the majority of English supporters were gathered. As the referee raised his whistle to his lips, Charlotte felt her father's hand squeeze hers gently. They were about to witness 90 minutes that would determine whether England finally ended their long wait for international glory, or whether they would face more heartbreak on the biggest stage. The whistle blew. Spain kicked off and the Euro 2025 final was underway. Charlotte held her breath as the first passes were made, knowing that she was about to experience the most intense 90 minutes of football she had ever witnessed. The opening minutes of the final were exactly as intense as Princess Charlotte had expected. Spain immediately showed why they were considered one of the best teams in the world, keeping possession of the ball with their trademark passing style. Charlotte watched nervously as Spanish players moved the ball around the pitch with precision, probing for weaknesses in England's defense. "They're very good at keeping the ball, aren't they, Papa?" Charlotte whispered to Prince William, who was leaning forward in his seat, completely absorbed in the tactical battle unfolding before them. "Yes, that's their style," he replied quietly. "But watch how disciplined our players are. They're staying in shape, waiting for the right moment to win the ball back." Charlotte could see the tension in her father's face. As FA president, he felt the weight of expectation from millions of England fans, but as a father, he also wanted to show Charlotte how beautiful football could be when played at the highest level. She could tell he was torn between his official duties and his genuine passion for the game. The first real chance of the match came in the 15th minute when England won a corner kick. Charlotte stood up with the rest of the royal box as Jude Bellingham prepared to take it. The young midfielder had been one of England's standout performers throughout the tournament, and Charlotte had been particularly impressed by his maturity and leadership despite being only slightly older than her brother. George Bellingham's corner was perfect, curling toward the far post where Harry Kane was waiting. Charlotte held her breath as the England captain rose above his marker, his header powerful and well-directed. For a split second, it looked like England had taken the lead, but the Spanish goalkeeper made a spectacular save. Tipping the ball over the crossbar, the royal box erupted in disappointed groans, and Charlotte felt her heart sink. "So close!" she exclaimed, unconsciously copying the reaction of every England fan in the stadium. Prince William smiled at his daughter's genuine emotion. She wasn't just attending as a royal duty anymore. She was completely invested in England's success. Spain responded with a dangerous attack of their own, their young winger beating 2 English defenders before cutting inside and shooting. Charlotte watched in alarm as the ball flew toward the top corner, but England goalkeeper Jordan Pickford was equal to it, making a diving save that brought the England supporters to their feet. "Mr. Pickford is amazing," Charlotte said, remembering the friendly conversation she had had with the goalkeeper during the pre-match presentations. She was beginning to understand why her father found football so compelling, the constant shifts between hope and fear. The way one moment could change everything. As the first half progressed, Charlotte found herself completely absorbed in the tactical battle. Spain continued to dominate possession, but England looked dangerous every time they won the ball back. She could see that both teams were being extremely careful, knowing that one mistake could decide the entire tournament. The most heart-stopping moment of the first half came in the 37th minute. Spain's midfielder played a perfect through ball to their striker, who suddenly found himself one-on-one with Pickford. Charlotte instinctively grabbed her father's arm as the Spanish player rounded the goalkeeper and looked certain to score. "No. No, no," she whispered urgently, watching as the striker prepared to slot the ball into the empty net. But somehow, England defender John Stones appeared from nowhere, making a last-ditch tackle that sent the ball out for a corner kick. The royal box erupted in relief, and Charlotte found herself applauding the incredible defensive play. "That's what we call a goal-saving tackle," Prince William explained to his daughter, who was still trying to process how close Spain had come to taking the lead. Sometimes defending can be just as exciting as scoring. The corner kick that followed led to a scramble in the England penalty area, with players from both teams fighting for the ball. Charlotte watched nervously as the ball bounced around dangerously. But England managed to clear their lines and launch a counterattack. Marcus Rashford picked up the ball on the left wing and began one of his trademark runs. Charlotte had seen him play many times before, but never in a moment as important as this. The winger beat one Spanish defender, then another, before cutting inside toward the penalty area. "Go on, Marcus," Charlotte shouted, temporarily forgetting royal protocol as she got caught up in the excitement. The entire royal box was on its feet as Rashford prepared to shoot. But his effort was blocked by a Spanish defender. At the last moment, the referee's whistle blew for halftime. With the score still 0-0, Charlotte felt emotionally drained despite only watching for 45 minutes. She couldn't imagine how the players themselves were feeling after such an intense opening period. "What do you think will happen in the second half, Papa?" she asked as they settled back into their seats during the interval. Prince William considered the question carefully. "I think we'll see goals in the second half. Both teams have been too careful so far, but as the match goes on, they'll have to take more risks. That's when the real drama usually begins." Charlotte looked around the royal box and could see the same nervous energy in every face. Football officials, dignitaries, and former players all seemed to be feeling the same tension she was experiencing. This wasn't just any match. This was a moment that could define English football for a generation. As the teams emerged for the second half, Charlotte noticed that Prince William was gripping the arms of his chair more tightly than before. She reached over and took his hand, just as he had done for her before the match began. "Whatever happens, Papa, we're experiencing it together," she said, repeating his earlier words back to him. The smile on Prince William's face told her that her support meant everything to him. Just as his presence meant everything to her, the second half was about to begin. And Charlotte could sense that the real drama was just getting started. The 4 minutes of stoppage time felt like 4 hours to Princess Charlotte. Every second seemed to stretch endlessly as Spain threw everything they had at England's defense in a desperate attempt to force extra time. Charlotte gripped her father's hand so tightly that her knuckles turned white, while Prince William found himself unconsciously leaning forward in his seat with every Spanish attack. In the first minute of added time, Spain won a free kick just outside England's penalty area. Charlotte's heart sank as she watched the Spanish players gather around the ball, knowing that this was exactly the kind of opportunity that could change everything. The Spanish midfielder who stepped up to take the kick was known for his ability to score from these situations. "This is dangerous, Papa," Charlotte whispered, her voice barely audible over the tension that had settled over Wembley Stadium. Even the England fans had gone quiet, understanding the magnitude of the moment. The Spanish player's free kick was perfectly struck, curling around England's defensive wall and heading toward the top corner. Charlotte closed her eyes, unable to watch what might be Spain's equalizer. But the gasp from the crowd told her everything she needed to know. Somehow, Jordan Pickford had made another impossible save, tipping the ball over the crossbar. "Pickford, what a save!" Prince William exclaimed, momentarily forgetting his composed royal demeanor. Charlotte opened her eyes to see her father jumping out of his seat, applauding the England goalkeeper who had just kept their dreams alive. The corner kick that followed was Spain's last real chance. Charlotte watched nervously as Spanish players crowded into England's penalty area, with their tall center-backs joining the attack for one final assault. The corner was delivered perfectly. Finding the head of Spain's captain at the back post. Time seemed to slow down as Charlotte watched the ball leave the Spanish captain's head, seemingly destined for the bottom corner. This was it, the moment that would decide the European Championship. But John Stones, the same England defender who had made the crucial tackle in the first half, was there again to head the ball clear. "Stones, my hero!" Charlotte shouted, surprising herself with her emotional outburst. She had never felt such relief in her life, and she could see that her father was experiencing the same overwhelming mix of emotions. England managed to clear the ball up the field, and for the first time in several minutes, Spain were not attacking. Charlotte glanced at the stadium clock and saw that there were only 30 seconds of stoppage time remaining. 30 seconds. Between England and their first major tournament victory since 1966. Harry Kane won the ball in midfield and immediately looked to run down the clock. The England captain was showing all his experience as he shielded the ball from Spanish defenders, drawing fouls and slowing the game down. Charlotte had never appreciated the tactical side of football before, but now she understood that sometimes the most important skill was simply keeping possession. "Come on, England, hold on," Prince William was saying under his breath, and Charlotte realized that her composed father was just as nervous as she was. The weight of representing English football as FA president, combined with his genuine passion as a supporter, had created an emotional intensity that was almost too much to bear. The referee looked at his watch one final time, as Charlotte felt her heart beating so fast that she thought it might burst. This was it, the moment that would define English football for a generation. All around Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people held their breath as the official raised his whistle to his lips. The whistle blew, long and clear, signaling the end of the match. England had won the European Championship. For a moment, Charlotte couldn't quite believe what had happened. The noise that erupted from the stadium was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was the sound of pure joy, of dreams fulfilled, of history being made. 90,000 England fans celebrated as one, their voices combining to create a wall of sound that seemed to lift the roof off Wembley. Charlotte found herself crying with happiness as she threw her arms around her father. Prince William was openly weeping, all pretense of royal composure abandoned in the face of such overwhelming emotion. They held each other tightly as the celebration continued around them, both understanding that they had just witnessed something truly special. "We did it, Papa! England actually won!" Charlotte sobbed into her father's shoulder, still unable to fully process what had just happened. "Yes, we did it," Prince William replied, his voice choked with emotion. "After all these years of heartbreak and disappointment, England are finally champions of Europe again." On the pitch below, the England players were celebrating wildly. Harry Kane was on his knees in the center circle, looking up at the sky with tears streaming down his face. Jude Bellingham was running toward the England fans, his arms spread wide as he soaked up the adulation. Jordan Pickford was being mobbed by his teammates, the hero whose saves had kept England's dreams alive. Charlotte watched through her tears as the Spanish players showed incredible sportsmanship, congratulating their English counterparts despite their own disappointment. She remembered her father's lessons about respecting opponents, and she felt proud of how both teams had conducted themselves throughout the tournament. "What happens now, Papa?" she asked, wiping her eyes as the initial wave of emotion began to subside. "Now comes the best part," Prince William replied with a smile. "Now we get to present the trophy to our champions." Charlotte's eyes widened as she realized what her father meant. As FA president, Prince William would be the one to hand the European Championship trophy to Harry Kane, and she would be right there beside him, sharing in one of the greatest moments in English football history. The thought of being part of the trophy presentation filled Charlotte with a new wave of excitement. This wasn't just about watching England win. She was going to play a role in celebrating their victory. As they prepared to make their way down to the pitch, Charlotte felt prouder than she had ever felt before. Today she had stood by her father's side and witnessed England make history. The second half began with a completely different intensity than the first. Both England and Spain seemed to understand that defensive caution would no longer be enough. Someone needed to take risks to break the deadlock. Princess Charlotte could feel the change in atmosphere immediately as the players took the field with more urgency in their movements. England started the second half brightly, pressing higher up the pitch and forcing Spain into mistakes they hadn't made in the opening period. Charlotte watched with growing excitement as her team began to create more dangerous opportunities. In the 53rd minute, Declan Rice won the ball in midfield and immediately looked for Harry Kane. With a perfectly weighted pass, Kane's first touch was sublime, taking him away from his marker and toward the edge of the penalty area. Charlotte found herself standing again, her heart racing as England's captain prepared to shoot. The strike was powerful and low, heading toward the bottom corner. But the Spanish goalkeeper managed to get down quickly and push the ball wide for a corner. "We're getting closer," Prince William said, his voice tight with nervous excitement. Charlotte could see that her father was struggling to maintain his composure as the match intensified. His role as FA president required him to remain diplomatic, but his heart was purely English in moments like these. The corner kick led to another scramble in the Spanish penalty area, and for a moment it looked like the ball might fall kindly for an England player. But Spain managed to clear their lines, and their quick counterattack caught England's defense off guard. Charlotte watched in alarm as Spain's winger broke free down the right side, with only one England defender between him and the goal. The Spanish player's cross was dangerous, curling toward the far post where their striker was waiting unmarked. Time seemed to slow down as Charlotte realized that Spain were about to take the lead in the Euro 2025 final, but somehow England left back Luke Shaw appeared at the crucial moment, throwing himself at the ball and deflecting it just wide of the post. Charlotte let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding, while Prince William clasped his hands together in relief. "This is the most nervous I've ever been watching football," Charlotte confessed to her father, who nodded in understanding. "That's because this is the most important match England have played in decades," he replied. "Every moment matters now." The breakthrough finally came in the 68th minute, and it arrived in spectacular fashion. Jude Bellingham picked up the ball in England's half and began one of the most memorable runs in Euro final history. The young midfielder beat two Spanish players with skill that left Charlotte gasping. Before playing a perfect pass to Marcus Rashford on the left wing, Rashford's pace took him past his marker easily, and his cross into the penalty area was inch-perfect. Harry Kane was waiting exactly where a great striker should be, and his header was unstoppable. The ball flew past the Spanish goalkeeper and into the top corner of the net. Wembley Stadium exploded. Charlotte had never heard a noise like it. 90,000 England fans celebrating as one, their voices combining to create a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the stadium. In the royal box, dignity was temporarily forgotten as everyone leaped to their feet in celebration. Charlotte found herself hugging her father as tears of joy streamed down both their faces. Prince William lifted his daughter into the air, spinning her around as they celebrated England's first goal in a major final since 1966. For a moment, protocol and royal duties were completely forgotten. They were simply a father and daughter sharing the most incredible sporting moment of their lives. "We're winning, Papa. We're actually winning the European Championship," Charlotte shouted over the noise of the crowd, her voice filled with disbelief and joy. But even as they celebrated, Prince William's experience as a longtime England supporter reminded him that the job wasn't finished. 22 minutes left, Charlotte. We need to stay strong and not let Spain back into the match. His caution proved wise as Spain immediately responded with renewed intensity. The Spanish team had not become one of the world's best by accepting defeat easily, and they began throwing everything at England's defense in search of an equalizer. The next 15 minutes were the most nerve-wracking of Charlotte's young life. Spain came wave after wave, testing England's resolve with shot after shot. Jordan Pickford made save after save, while the England defenders threw their bodies in front of every Spanish attack. In the 81st minute, Spain came agonizingly close to equalizing. A corner kick was flicked on at the near post, and Charlotte watched in horror as the ball seemed destined for the top corner. But Pickford somehow managed to tip it over the crossbar with his fingertips, making one of the greatest saves in European Championship history. How did he save that? Charlotte asked in amazement, watching as the England goalkeeper picked himself up off the ground to face yet another Spanish corner. "That's why he's England's number one," Prince William replied. But Charlotte could hear the tension in his voice. Her father was clearly struggling with the emotional intensity of the match. Torn between hope and the fear of another English heartbreak, the final 10 minutes felt like the longest 10 minutes of Charlotte's life. Spain pressed desperately for an equalizer while England tried to protect their precious lead. Every Spanish attack brought fresh anxiety. While every England clearance offered temporary relief, Charlotte found herself copying her father's nervous habits, checking her watch constantly, shifting in her seat, and unconsciously holding her breath during dangerous moments. She had never experienced stress like this before, and she was beginning to understand why some people found football too emotionally demanding to watch. As the match entered stoppage time, the tension in Wembley Stadium was almost unbearable. Charlotte could see that even the Spanish fans were on their feet, desperately urging their team forward in search of a miracle equalizer. The fourth official held up his board showing 4 additional minutes, and Charlotte felt her stomach lurch. 4 more minutes of this intensity seemed impossible to endure, but she knew that everything England had worked for over the past month would be decided in the next few moments. The walk from the royal box to the pitch felt surreal to Princess Charlotte. Around her, Wembley Stadium was still erupting in celebration, with England fans singing, dancing, and crying tears of joy. The sound was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. It was the sound of a nation's dreams finally coming true. As they made their way through the stadium corridors, Charlotte could see UEFA officials preparing the trophy presentation area. A small stage had been set up on the pitch, complete with a podium where the European Championship trophy gleamed under the stadium lights. The sight of that golden trophy sent a fresh wave of excitement through Charlotte's body. "Are you ready for this, Charlotte?" Prince William asked as they paused outside the tunnel leading to the pitch. His eyes were still red from crying, but his smile was the biggest Charlotte had ever seen. "In a few minutes, we're going to hand the European Championship trophy to Harry Kane. That trophy represents everything England have worked for over the past month." Charlotte nodded, feeling butterflies in her stomach for completely different reasons than she had before the match. Before kickoff, she had been nervous about England losing. Now she was nervous about the incredible honor she was about to experience. How many 9-year-olds got to present a major international trophy alongside their father? When they emerged onto the pitch, the noise somehow became even louder. The England fans spotted Prince William and Charlotte immediately, and a new chant began to echo around the stadium. "William! William! William!" followed by "Charlotte! Charlotte! Charlotte!" The young princess felt overwhelmed by the love and appreciation from the supporters. The England players were gathered in the center circle, still in various stages of celebration. Some were taking selfies with fans, others were calling their families, and a few were simply sitting on the grass, trying to process what they had just achieved. Charlotte could see the exhaustion on their faces, but also the pure joy that comes from achieving a lifelong dream. Harry Kane spotted them approaching and immediately began organizing his teammates into a line for the trophy presentation. Charlotte watched with admiration as the England captain took control, showing the leadership qualities that had made him such an important figure throughout the tournament. "Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness," Kane said formally as he approached. Prince William and Charlotte, but the huge grin on his face showed just how happy he was to see them. "Thank you for being here today. Having your support meant everything to us. Thank you for giving us the most incredible afternoon of our lives," Prince William replied, shaking hands with each member of the England squad. "You've made an entire nation proud today." When Charlotte's turn came to congratulate the players, she found herself struggling to find the right words. These men had just become heroes to millions of people, and she was honored to be able to share this moment with them. "You were all Amazing, she managed to say to each player, her voice filled with genuine admiration. Jordan Pickford knelt down to Charlotte's level, just as he had during the pre-match presentations. "Did you enjoy the match, Princess?" he asked with a smile. "It was the most exciting thing I've ever seen," Charlotte replied honestly. "When you saved that free kick in stoppage time, I thought my heart was going to explode." Pickford laughed at Charlotte's description, and she could see how much the players appreciated her genuine enthusiasm. This wasn't royal duty for her anymore. She was celebrating as a true England fan who had just witnessed something magical. The UEFA president approached them, carrying the European Championship trophy. Charlotte had seen pictures of this trophy many times before, but seeing it up close was breathtaking. The Golden Cup seemed to capture all the stadium lights, creating an almost magical glow that represented everything England had fought for. "Your Royal Highness, would you like to present the trophy to the England captain?" the UEFA president asked Prince William. "Actually," Prince William replied, glancing down at Charlotte with a smile, "I think my daughter and I should present it together. This has been her tournament as much as mine." Charlotte's eyes widened in surprise and delight. She had expected to stand beside her father during the presentation, but the thought of actually helping to hand over the trophy had never occurred to her. Now she was going to be directly involved in one of the most important moments in English football history. Harry Kane stepped forward to receive the trophy, and Charlotte could see tears forming in the captain's eyes again. This moment represented the culmination of years of hard work and disappointment for Kane, who had come so close to international glory before only to fall short. Together, Prince William and Charlotte lifted the European Championship trophy and placed it in Harry Kane's hands. The moment their hands touched the Golden Cup, Wembley Stadium erupted once again. Confetti cannons fired from around the pitch, covering everyone in red and white paper, while fireworks lit up the London sky. Kane immediately lifted the trophy above his head, and his teammates rushed forward to join the celebration. Charlotte watched in amazement as grown men who were usually so composed on the football pitch jumped around like excited children, passing the trophy between them and taking turns to kiss it. "We did it! We actually did it!" Jude Bellingham shouted as he ran past Charlotte, the trophy held high above his head. The young midfielder's joy was infectious, and Charlotte found herself laughing and cheering along with the England players. As the celebration continued around them, Prince William put his arm around Charlotte's shoulders. "How do you feel?" he asked his daughter, who was still watching the England players with wonder. "I feel like the luckiest person in the world," Charlotte replied without hesitation. "Not just because England won, but because I got to experience it with you, Papa. This is better than any fairy tale." Prince William smiled and hugged his daughter tighter. In a day filled with incredible moments, hearing those words from Charlotte was perhaps the most precious of all. Together, they had witnessed England end decades of heartbreak and disappointment. They had stood side by side through every emotion, nervousness, fear, hope, and finally, pure joy. As the England players began their lap of honor around Wembley Stadium, Charlotte knew that this day would stay with her forever. She had learned that football was about much more than just winning and losing. It was about hope, perseverance, and the power of believing in your dreams. Most importantly, she had discovered that sharing incredible moments with the people you love makes them even more special. Standing beside Prince William as England celebrated their European Championship victory, Princess Charlotte felt prouder than ever to be both English and part of a family that truly understood the magic of football.